Computer, there you go. Yeah. So I would like to introduce to you two of our ISO leaders for this year's ISO. They will be leading you and you will meet them here in, I guess, a month. So yeah, first we have Nirvan and Chanvi. And then we also have Chanvi. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves first?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Nirvan. I'm a rising junior now. And I'm from Hyderabad, India, and I'm a Psych and Econ major.
Hi everyone, my name is Janvi. I'm also from India. I'm from near Bombay. I'm a rising junior and I'm majoring in government and College of Letters with a minor in human rights. Okay, sweet. Should we get started, Rai, or are there any more details you'd like to share? But okay, so moving to the very first slide. This is just a reminder that arrival period where most international students will be arriving on campus is August 29th and the 30th. So either one of those days is good. And then I think we have a settle-in day after that, where there's going to be just time for you to move into your dorm, relax for a little bit, gear up for ISO. And we have a Target shopping trip, I think. That's also part of ISO. And then the next 2 days are going to be your actual ISO programming, which we're all very, very excited about. Moving to the first packing slide, what you should be bringing in terms of your wardrobe is not absolutely everything you have right now. Obviously, you've been living in your home countries for a while, you've built up that wardrobe, but right now, you should basically just be bringing your light layers, a general capsule wardrobe. So think of what would last you for a week or two without doing laundry and get those things. So things like cardigans, tops, a few bottoms, um, and I think also getting a lot of cotton shirts is good because uh, usually clothing made out of cotton is a bit expensive here. But basically, you should just be getting basics that you can build on. So that after you get here and you get a sense of what the weather's like, what you think you'll be wearing, then you have that time to be able to get more things here. Um, Something that I think is a good idea is you'll likely have a carry-on as you're traveling through your airports. So you could make that your school bag or your backpack for when you arrive onto campus. And I think that's like a smart way to pack because you ideally should not be having more than 2 to 3 suitcases. From what we've noticed, most students tend to bring 2 to 3 suitcases when they come into the US. I brought more. Don't do that. 2 to 3 is more than enough for everything. And then, of course, luggage. You're going to be traveling within and outside of the States throughout your 4 years. So it's good to bring like reliable, sturdy luggage as opposed to, buying that here. But that's probably a given. Another thing that is really, really good to bring is your cultural wear. There's going to be like a billion cultural events, and you're going to wish you got your cultural clothes. For example, my first Diwali here, everyone showed up like it was the Met Gala, and I was there in a shirt and jeans, I think. And I was really embarrassed. So don't do that. Get your cultural wear. Obviously, not like your entire wardrobe, but I think 1 to 3 outfits for that is good. Um, Food, I think you should check your TSA and USDA guidelines. Like they have a few restrictions on like bringing liquids or, you know, agricultural stuff, but usually food is a great way to avoid, you know, feeling homesick for too long. And it's just good to sort of have that for your comfort when you're in your dorm and you're away from your family, you're away from your communities. So we would recommend bringing some of that, but again, think small quantities. And there's also a lot of food markets on on and around Middletown. So you should be covered on those fronts.
Thank you, Janvi.
Speaking of packing more seasonally, you're going to have a lot of long months where it's really, really cold. For example, in September, the weather varies from 19 to 24 degrees Celsius, and in October, it drops below that, so like 10 to 20 degrees Celsius. So you're going to have and the cold is basically going to last until mid-March. So if you're from a country which has a lot of comparable colds to the US or, the Northeast and New England, where the winters are really cold, I think I would recommend bringing your winter wear because you probably already have good stuff and it's going to be expensive to buy here. But if you're like me and you're someone who's from a warmer country where you really don't have winters below 20 or 25 degrees Celsius, then I think it's probably a good idea to wait to buy winter wear here because you're not going to have a very good idea of what good winter wear is, how much it costs, what's going to suit you. And then I think there's also plenty of places here where you can get that. Your general winter wear will just be like a very sturdy coat that can last you throughout the entirety of your colder months like September, October, November, December. September won't be that cold, but all the way through March. And then a few good sweaters is good, and then just all your layering that you would do during the fall season. So, rainy weather. I had initially put down rainy season because it seems to be that the rain lasts in New England all season around, but you're going to have rain every second week or so. So it's a really good idea to invest in rain boots or umbrellas and raincoats. I have an umbrella and a raincoat, and I always forget and lose my umbrella. So it's good to have a raincoat as well. And again, this can be up to you for whether you want to pack or buy it, but I think you can get umbrellas and raincoats from the campus store or from the Waste Not tag sale, which we'll talk about more later. But yeah. And then the summers, a lot of international students stay over the summer and winter. So pack light layers that you would also be able to wear in the fall. And what I said about cotton, if you have good cotton shirts, tops, bottoms, get those because it's a little bit tougher to find it here and also more expensive. We can go to the next slide. Okay, this is just a small anecdote. During my freshman year, I had no idea what a real winter was like, and I thought everyone was just that cold all the time. So I spent like I think $70 on this purple coat, and it was really thin and really useless, and I was cold all the time. And I thought, well, I've already spent all my money now. What am I going to do? I have no idea how I survived that winter. It would get down to like negative 10 degrees Celsius, and I would be wearing that. And I have no idea how I survived it. I think I just lived on prayers. But the next winter, I talked to friends. I garnered much knowledge on the topic, and I learned what a good winter coat is. And that is what the other two pictures are. So you should look for down or polyester coats, and it'll usually be labeled, but that's also what most people wear here during the winter. So it's not just enough to get a puffer coat, is what I learned. Just the word puffer does not mean it's going to be warm or that it's a great winter coat. But yeah. Moving on, winter wear can be pretty expensive, and around campus, you'll see a lot of people wearing brands like Columbia or Aritzia or Canada Goose, all of which are pretty expensive. Now, they're good, but they are seriously expensive. And if you want to do that on budget, Wesleyan has a lot of great resources for FGLI students, or just in general, if you don't want to break your bank over like things like coats and scarves and gloves. So the Resource Center has the Winter Clothing Connection program, which allows FGLI students to request up to 5 items of clothing suited to their needs. So you can choose what you would like to request, and then they do their best to match you with those items in accordance with the donors that the program has. There's also thrifting. Every single one of the cardigans I wear on campus is thrifted. So over the fall and spring semester, but usually a lot more over the fall, there's going to be thrift sales right in front of USAN, which is like our dining hall. You cannot miss them. In fact, you'll wish you missed them because you'll end up spending money. But those are great places to get cardigans that are still in pretty good quality. And then there's a bunch of thrift stores around Middletown, like Your Closet or Mine, which is on Washington Street, and also Goodwill. Um, Places where you can thrift on campus is in the basement of the College of Environment. There's a program called West Thrift, where students usually donate clothes, or I think the program also finds clothes from other sources and donors. And I think I might be wrong on this, so I will get back to you with the real fact, but I think it's free for all FGLI students, if I'm not wrong. So that's just on what you should pack, what you should not pack for clothes. Now, technology is a huge other thing. You're constantly going to be using your laptop or your iPad and also your phones on campus. So bring your devices and your chargers, but don't get hefty things like extension cords, which you can get from the campus store as well. So for chargers, in the US, you use type A or type B chargers, which are the flat kind that you see here and not the rounded ones. India had the rounded ones, and those were the ones that I ended up getting, and they didn't fit into a single socket. So try to get the flat type ones, and I think you can either get them at airports or when you arrive in the US. If you do have the flat wire ones, I would still recommend checking the voltages because in the US, the voltage is like 120 volts or 60 hertz, and it still might be different as compared to, say, Australia, where they still have the flat chargers. You can buy these at the AT&T store on Main Street, as well as the campus store, and West Rift is free. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Raya. Um, And I think plug adapters is also just a great thing to have on hand if you're someone who is planning on traveling back home a lot or just traveling in general. These small things, you can plug in any charger into them and it can fit into basically any socket you'd like. And you can also get those at any tech stores. Now we have our list of things you should not pack. So, for your dorm supplies, you are likely going to be getting everything in the States, or most things. Things like table lamps, cleaning supplies, pots and pans if you like to cook, your dorm decoration, all of that stuff you're probably going to end up getting here. We have a Target shopping trip on your settle in day, so that's also going to be a time where you end up getting a lot of these things. So do not bother getting anything from your current existing living environment for in terms of like dorm supplies. Um, Study supplies, folders, notebooks, stationery, all of that you're also going to likely get here. I took a summer class before coming to Wesleyan, and I thought, well, I'm just going to absolutely fail if I don't have my notes for this one class for the next 4 years at Wesleyan. So I ended up getting this huge folder and like just notebooks and notebooks, which I don't know why that class had so many notes, but it did. Don't do that. You can digitize it, you can take photos, you can save it on folders. Just just don't. I had a suitcase full of books and I just wish I had that hindsight to go back in time and tell myself to not do that. Um, Towel and beddings, again, it's probably going to last you a few years if you get it here, so we would recommend getting it here. Unless, of course, you're exceptionally attached to and love your blanket or bedding, which is also valid. And then your exercise supplies as well. I think Waste Not has pretty good options for things like yoga mats or even dumbbells, I think. So probably wait to get those here. And I think it might be a little bit different for student athletes who are also international students. Um, but I'm sure you guys will get instruction from your coaches and your sports departments on that front. So I think something that's important to keep in mind is moving by yourself. International students bond so much during every single move-in time frame. So at the end of every summer, you move into your fall housing assignment, and it's kind of much more challenging for us because we don't have cars usually, like other students do, and we don't have our families around, at least most of us, to help us pack and move. So you will see everyone helping everyone, and it's a great time. It's a great time because you have that community around you to help you out. But that's basically something you should keep in mind in terms of getting stuff. It's just think about moving all of that by yourself. So that's just a cautionary warning. Then we have some honorable mentions for things you maybe should back, and I think Nirvan can speak better to this if you want to jump in here.
Yeah, like when John and I were making the slides, we were like, what are some things that like you think was super niche that I brought? And what I like to do is every year I like bring something back from India that I can give to my friends. My first year I brought back bangles, and my second year I brought back earrings. But I think it's super cool to just like think a little bit ahead and get something kind of unique to where you're from. It makes a really good gift, and it's, super specific to you. So it's a pretty unique thing you can just, give your friends to like show them how much you appreciate them. And it's a good like after your first year when everybody's maybe leaving campus to do whatever they need to do. Um, it's a good like keepsake to have. I think it's also nice to like if you're scared of something breaking, postcards make sense. You can write on them. Your friends from back home can write on them and give you like messages you can hang up and stuff like that. But yeah, I recommend bringing like a small something from back home you can give out. But yeah,
Okay, sweet. I think
okay.
our next slide is phone plans, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Talking about phone plans now. Basically the most popular phone plans, at least that I've heard that we've heard of, are Mint Mobile, T-Mobile, and AT&T. Um, I think Mint Mobile is like the best combination of affordability and like coverage because it's super affordable and it uses T-Mobile's coverage, which is like a major carrier. Um, I will say if for whatever reason you need to be in rural areas a lot, AT&T's has the biggest coverage outside like in the whole of the US. So if you're if that's something you specifically need, I would go for AT&T. But like if we're in like an urban area like Middletown, because I guess because Middletown counts as an urban area, um, like I've never had issues with Mint Mobile anywhere in the US. Um, and the reason why their rates can be so cheap is because they don't have any physical stores. They only operate online, which means they have great customer service online, but there is no store to physically go into like T-Mobile does. That's just something to keep in mind. But another reason I think Mint Mobile works a lot better for international students is that they don't have, I mean, in the US, you can sometimes buy phones through a carrier. So, kind of through paying for your phone plan, you pay off your phone. And Mint Mobile doesn't work like that. And it's more similar to how networks work back home, at least um, for me and my friends' experience. It's more like it was a lot more approachable to us. So that's another reason I think why Mint Mobile is so popular. I mean, it's also really popular because it's the cheapest. But yeah. Um, and when you're choosing how many like gigabytes you want per month, I think like when you're on campus, you will rarely be without Wi-Fi. So I don't think there's any need to get like an unlimited plan. I'm spending a lot of time off campus, like maybe like taking the train to New York or Boston And if so, then maybe, but usually I don't, you don't need as much data as you think. I would stick with it like maybe like 15, 5 to 15. But yeah. Okay, now coming to banking. So like we talk about banking, I think like some names just to keep in mind are Bank of America, Liberty Bank, Wells Fargo, TD Bank, and Chase. I think Bank of America and Chase are the two most popular in the US that I've seen for sure. And out of those two, Bank of America is definitely more popular at Wesleyan because they have a location on Main Street. Um, these are all really big banks and they all have free checking accounts for students, so you don't have to pay anything and you can just deposit your money, which is great. So when deciding, I think what's like pretty much the most important thing after that is like a physical location you can go into. And that's where Bank of America and Liberty win because they're right on Main Street and it's super accessible. And Wells Fargo is near Main Street, but on Main Street. A tip is to try and open your account as soon as possible. Because at ISO and after ISO, everybody's gonna be scrambling to get their account made. So you'll probably have to choose a time slot and come back later versus if you go before, you can just walk in with all your documents and then get started. I think like Bank of America is the most popular choice, and um I think it's important to just choose a bank that has a location on Main Street because it just makes it easier to like apply for a credit card. You can just go in person, and they'll probably accept you more if you go in person. Um, And Bank of America is a lot bigger than Liberty Bank, which I think is also why people choose them over Liberty. But again, all of these, it's important to when you sign up, just to let the bank know you're a student. And they will if you sign up during ISO. I mean, they know that when ISO happens. Um, but if you just let them know that you're a student, they'll give you the free account and you won't have to pay anything until you graduate. That's just probably the most important thing. And all of these banks, most of these banks come to the banking fair, where you can either list, if you're early enough to the banking fair, you can just make an account on the spot. But what'll probably happen is also you'll have to sign up for a slot, um, to then go down to Main Street. Especially that's what they did for Bank of America because it was pretty popular last year. So if you want a bank account pretty badly, just make sure you go to the banking fair early, and then you'll be all good. So yeah.
Also, you will probably need your documents for when you have an appointment with these banks.
Oh yeah.
So things like your passport, your visa, and I think a couple of other basic documentation that you guys probably already have. Um, yeah.
So once we go to one of these banks and we open an account, to understand the different types of accounts, the way I like to differentiate between a checking and savings account is checking account is where your money is going to be coming out of, and your savings account is where you put your money like once a month, and it stays there and it accrues interest, which is just when the bank pays you back a percentage of the money you have in your account as kind of like a thank you. Um, when I first got my savings account, I was really confused as to how much I should be putting in my checkings versus my savings. And we'll talk more about this when we talk about like good money practices and managing finances. But um, you should at least have like a month's, you should try to have a month's worth of money in your checking account, is how I like to put it. So if you can't transfer anything from your savings to your checking for a month, you'll be good. And checking account is where your money comes in and out of. There's no fee for when that happens. And when you get a debit card, which you will when you make your checking account at any of those locations, when you tap for your debit card, that's where the money's coming out of. Versus the savings, you don't pay anything with your savings. It's just where you put your money to save and then to accrue interest. An important thing is to not put too much money in your savings account and then have to keep putting money back into your checking account because after a certain amount of times, they will probably start charging you. So I think when you first get to Wesleyan, and you figure out how much you're spending. After that, just make sure you have a month worth of expenses in your checking, and then the rest can go in your savings, and then you should be pretty good. Okay, and now a credit card. How credit cards work are when you pay for something with a credit card, nothing comes out of your account at that time. The bank is paying for it. And then at the end of the month, you will you should pay everything, the like how much money, your total bill basically for that month from the bank. Um, what's really important with credit cards is to treat them like debit cards. Um, because let's say you spend $500 on your credit card and then you only pay back 200. The rest of that money that you didn't spend, that you didn't pay, so like $300, it'll accrue interest. So that means you'll have to pay like, let's say $325 next time. And it'll keep happening until you pay it off, which obviously is not good. So treat your credit card like a debit card. Um, and the reason why getting credit card early is so important, especially in the US, is that remember like when I said credit cards are the bank paying for it? Essentially, think of it as you're taking a loan out every single month, a mini loan out every single month, and then you pay it back that month, right? So by consistently taking out loans and then paying them back, you're showing the bank and everybody else who has access to your credit history that, hey, this person is good at paying back money, they're responsible. So then when you like need to buy a house or whatever, it can even help you to get lower rates on like phone plans for a bunch of things to like rent an apartment, buy a house, mortgage, a loan, whatever, and get lower rates. They'll look at your credit history. So, and starting early really helps. So as soon as you can, I would recommend trying to get a credit card. And you can do this through the bank where you made a checking account because you're more likely to get a credit card through there because when you're a member with them. Just to reiterate, the most important thing is when you get a credit card is to set up auto payments and pay in full every month. Credit card companies will probably tell you that there's like a minimum fee, a minimum amount you can pay, and then you won't accrue interest. That can work, but I think it's a slippery slope, and I would be pretty conservative with your spending on credit cards, and just again, treat it like a debit card is the golden rule. But yeah,
Yeah, there's usually also like a limit to like you'll have a credit card limit, like you'll be allowed to spend technically $500 per month, but what's recommended is spending like 10 to 15% of that every single month so that basically the company can see, okay, well, you don't use all of it and that you spend responsibly and you pay that amount back.
yeah, spending around like 10 to 15%. Um, that's around that range is a really good point when you're trying to build your credit score. It just spending as little as possible on your credit card. Banks love that, and your credit score can increase pretty quickly. So especially when you're starting out, you don't need to put everything on your credit card, but some things to hit that range. But yeah,
I
um,
also spent like my entire limit my first month getting a credit card.
oh,
That's
I spent half of my first time, so that's why don't be like us, be better. Um, Yeah, like I said, Bank of America on the top left is the most popular one for international students. Chase is really big, but there's no location on Main Street, so people don't really um, bank with them. And then TD Bank, some people definitely use. I don't know a lot of people who use TD Bank, but it's there. And the Capital One is a credit card company. So, in terms of getting your first credit card after your checking account, what I would do is I would get a checking account, and after like maybe a semester or a year, go to your bank in person. I think helps with the likelihood of getting a credit card, and then ask them for a credit card, and then because like you're a customer there for a year or a semester, you'll be more likely to get one. Oh yeah. So. You'll first create a checking account, which I think is the more important of your accounts when you first get to Wesleyan, and then it'll come time where you need to start open a savings account. And They're like kind of two kinds of savings account. They're like one of the traditional savings account at the bigger banks, like Bank of America or Chase or whatever. And then there are high yield savings account, and they essentially are savings accounts where there is a higher interest rate, so you'll get more money back. I feel like Bank of America or Chase is like 0.1%. So like, let's say like you get barely anything back on your money when you put your money into those accounts. But if you put your money into a high yield savings account, like I use Marcus by Goldman Sachs. I know Ally Bank is also really popular. They're both online banks that have high yield savings account. And basically what that means is around 3.5, they have interest rates for that are around 3.5 to 4%,
Yeah, and
which
B of
basically,
A, oh, sorry.
no, you're good.
B of A has 0.01, not zero point 0.1. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's really low. So I never opened a savings account with Bank of America personally. I waited and then I just opened one with Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally Bank. There are others. But I think these are the two most popular right now, but there are definitely other high yield savings accounts. It's basically you just get more money back. Um, I think my interest rate is 3.6 right now. So I put my money, and for no additional work on my end, 3.6% of how much ever money I have in my account gets deposited back to me. So it's basically free money. Um, but yeah, online banking I know can be scary for people, but if you want a savings account and you want a way to earn a little bit more interest, definitely look into it. And Marcus and Ally are the ones on the middle and the right, and then Fidelity is where you can make investments. It's like an app you can get on your phone. And a website, of course, too. It makes investing pretty simple. And one thing I will say about investing is that it also can be really, really daunting and scary. But if you want to, don't take investing advice from random people and do your own research, including me. Don't just believe everything I'm saying. But what I've learned is that instead of investing in specific companies, you can invest in like a conglomerate of like the biggest companies, like with the S&P 500. And those are a lot more resistant to fluctuations, like downwards and upwards. They're more, which is they're sort of kind of they're just safer. So that can make investing a little less scary, but you definitely don't need to invest as much as a savings account. So I think the preference kind of goes checking account, savings account, and a credit card, and then investing. But just so you know all your options, Fidelity is pretty popular with college students because of how simple it is. Okay, when it comes to managing your finances, at least this was me. It was pretty difficult for me once I got to Wesleyan because it was like my first time being alone without anybody to check me really. Um, and one thing that helped me is that when I first came to Wesleyan, I tried my best to look at my bank app to see where my money was going, and that kind of helped me. I could see like, okay, is this sustainable, the amount of money I'm spending? Yes or no? Um, Amount of money like that I have from my job versus the amount of money I'm spending, stuff like that. Um, I think it's important to just get a baseline of what you're spending so you can figure out is this sustainable. And your bank will probably make it all look pretty and like some graphs for you, like a pie chart. You can see, oh, am I spending most of my money on shopping, or is it on like Ubers to New Haven Station, or is it on restaurants? And then you can see it's like, do you think this is proportional to what it should be and stuff like that? Um, and another really important thing is to set your credit card up for auto pay so you will never have to pay interest when you just forget to pay. That would be the first thing I would do when I get a credit card. But yeah, um, for budgeting. I know some people who like to do weekly budgets. I know some people who like to do monthly budgets. I think it can be easier if you start with a monthly budget because it's a little bit more broad and you have more flexibility. And then if you feel like you would like more individual attention, um, I think you can definitely obviously move to a weekly budget, but starting with a monthly budget can be a better way to ease yourself into budgeting. And there are tons of great like online templates you can find about on like for like a Google Sheets where you can make budgeting. Yeah. And so and then if you decide to work an on-campus job, um, a lot of people, it's important to start, I think, but saving your money at Wesleyan so that when you leave Wesleyan and get your first job, it's a lot easier to like understand how much of your money should be going to living and how much of your money should be going to saving and etc. The 70-30 rule and the 50-50 rule are pretty popular for how much money should be going into um, like living right now versus saving for the future. And just depending on how many hours you're working, how much money I guess you'd like to spend, you can pick what works best for you. Um, I think what's important, at least that was for me, that was just to stick to one specific rule and not just like flip-flop between two. It just made it like as soon as I got my paycheck, this much would go into my savings and the rest would go into my checking, where you could spend it. And yeah, and payday is every at the end of the week, every week. And if you sign up for direct deposit, it should just go directly into your bank account. Yeah.
Um, just a small note about managing finances. If you're not used to just like working with different currencies, it might be a little bit of a shock for you to sort of start working with USD or dollars. The very first thing I bought when I came to the States was a shampoo, and I looked at the price and it said $20. And I looked at my sister and I'm like, I'm not buying this. This is so expensive. And she said, if you keep converting like dollars back to your home country's currency, you will never buy anything in the States. So that's something to keep in mind that the exchange rate will kick in and you will eventually stop converting things. But um, that's something to keep in mind. And then also be mindful that your budget and how much you spend in your first couple of weeks at Wesleyan or even your first few months will not be what you will spend just on an average year or semester. It's going to take you some time probably to get used to how much you spend, how much you save. And I will also really echo Nirvan's advice that it's important to start saving as soon as you get an on-campus job. It will just help you in the longer run a lot. And then these are some important post-orientation programs. The resource fair is basically every single organization and resource we have for students on campus will get together on like tables, and there's going to be a fair, and they hand out information and free goodies, and you can chat with representatives. And so organizations like Westwell show up, which is basically like they run health ed programs on campus. They have a free resource room where you can get things like, contraception or cold and flu kits or drug testing or other important things like that. So the resource fair is going to be really, really important just for you to get a first-hand understanding of what exists on campus and the places on campus that you can hit for help before you have to like reach out to a broader community or say head down to Main Street or Middletown or even a bigger city because a lot more things exist on campus to help students, especially international students, than you would first realize. So go to that. Go with friends. You will learn a lot. You will have fun. You will get free stuff, I think, most likely. And then the Waste Not tag sale is something that happens every year. It's basically that a lot of people who leave campus or a lot of graduating seniors or even just students on campus moving from one year to the next, they donate a lot of their things for free to the Waste Not tag sale that's organized by I think the Sustainability Office, right? And it's really, really, really affordable prices for secondhand dorm supplies, things like vacuums, dorm decors, honestly, even some winter wear, I think. So that's also I think, reserved as a sort of preview for international students. We get to go first, or I think FGLI students also get to have a sort of first look at the sale before the broader student body is able to do it. So that's September 5 from 5 to 7 p.m. on Brainerd Avenue, and you should also go and check that out. But yeah,
Waste is so underrated because they have they have like pots and pans and like crockery if you're looking for that. Obviously it is secondhand, but I found some like really, I mean, I don't really know how to judge the quality of dishware, but they looked really good. And they've been working great. And they had like art decor, they had like frames of like art and decor and stuff, and like Swiffers to clean your room with. So there's a lot you can get there, which is super useful and it's really cheap. But yeah.
my friend got like a fridge, and she
Yeah.
got a fridge, a lamp, like frames for her bed. Like she made out like a bandit, and so can you.
Yeah.
Get there early, so get there early. And then if you need any other additional advising support, you can always email OISA or any of your ISOLs. We will leave our emails down in the chat. But I think we'll begin taking questions now, right? Is that right? If you guys have any questions at all, it can be like, guys, it can be any question. The main question
Literally
I
anything.
like, seriously, my main question while coming to Wesleyan is how did people deal with communal bathrooms on a daily basis? I had
Oh
only ever
gosh.
shared with my family, and I was like, how clean are they? What's it like? So, short answer to that, single-use bathrooms are good. And then if you're in a dorm, it's kind of a crapshoot. Sorry for the pun, but what you get or don't get, it's very up in the air. But yeah, ask any questions you have.
Yes, thank you so much, Nirvana and Janvi. That was amazing. While waiting for people's questions, I do want to talk on some stuff that you guys have discussed earlier for the phone plans and SIM cards. Specifically for Mint, they have eSIM cards. So if you're buying a phone here, a lot of the phones now, especially for iOS mobile, they no longer accept physical SIM cards, so getting Mint is a good idea. And if you ever need a temporary SIM card, you can also ask that to us during ISO. Our OASA staff, we have a couple of Mint temporary SIM cards stored in the office. That's just for 30 days. So if you don't want to spend on an expensive plan and you just need an immediate phone number, you can always ask that to us once you get here. And for the resource fair, please take note, the resource fair includes the banking and phone plan fair. So everything is in there. On-campus resources, phone plans, and banks are all in there. So please make sure to attend that. That's on September 2nd from 1 to 2 p.m., but you can go there during lunchtime, if you ever finish your lunch early. And credit cards, if you plan on staying in the United States, working or renting a place outside of campus, you need to open a credit card because a lot of services and facilities here in the US needs your credit score. So if you plan on staying and you want to either buy an apartment because you want to do an OPT or even stay longer than that here in the US, I would suggest to open a credit card as early as you can, but you have to be responsible in using it. And with the 10 to 15% credit score, you are allowed to spend until your limit, but by your due date of the credit card payment, you have to make sure that your balance is between 10 to 15% or even lower. So that's why Nirvan mentioned earlier, before or on the due date, you have to pay everything so that your credit line ratio, which we call, is going to be lower than 10 to 50%. So that's just like the tip. What I would suggest for credit cards is this Discover student credit card. You can apply online. It's very easy. Um, it's a student credit card, so you don't need any prior qualifications to have that. I am using Discover credit card as well. And if you get to build your credit score from that, you can probably move into a higher credit card, which I would suggest getting a travel card, credit card, especially if you're an international student, because there's nothing better than having your credit card company pay for your flights. That's the best feeling ever. And lastly, please read our newsletters. Our newsletters are WASIN International Student Orientation Newsletters, or WISN, has a lot of these important information that was discussed by your ISO leaders. So please make sure to read them. We still have two more issues that will be sent out before you arrive here at Wesleyan. And so far, we've sent out four. So they're all in your Wesleyan emails. Just make sure to read through them. We're trying our best to keep it short for you guys to like browse through them and not skip any information. So yeah. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section, or you can also raise your hand and open your mic. Um, I guess I would moderate this one. So we have a question from I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Is it fine if I arrive on the 31st? I won't need the transportation service if that helps. I can answer this question. The arrival dates for ISO is 29 and 30. That's specifically designed for you guys to move in. And the 31st is actually your settle-in day, which in that day we are holding the Target shopping trip, as well as your first ISOL group meeting and a new program that we're hosting this year, which is the Middle Sound Walking Tour, as well as a game night. So we do not recommend for students to arrive on the 31st, but if you have specific circumstances that will not allow you to arrive during the arrival days, which is August 29 and 30, then please make sure to send an email to iso@wesleyan.edu so we can note that. Because also with your keys and your West ID, your arrival packet, and all the important stuff that you need before ISO starts will only be available during the arrival period. So arriving on the 31st, most likely all of your ISO leaders, as well as me, your ISO intern, will be busy with all of the programs, and we might not be able to accommodate you and give you your keys to your room, which is obviously the first thing that you need. So again, if you have any circumstances that will not allow you to arrive on the 29 and 30, please make sure to send an email to iso@wesleyan.edu. Then we have another question from Alan. I found a job on Handshake available for freshmen like me, but it mentions that I need a resume. Thus, I was wondering whether there will be any sessions walking through us about how to fill out resumes and find jobs here on campus.
I can take that one. If you want to apply right now, which you totally can, the GCC, which is the Gordon Career Center, which is the career center here at Wesleyan, is open during the summer. And I just checked while I was just speaking, and you can still book appointments for like this week. Um, uh, um, there are virtual appointments for this week or next week. Um, where you can, it's called like the resume cover or profile review, where they can help and walk you through making a resume. Um, I think, yeah, you can access it through Handshake. Um, and then on the left, like bar at the bottom, it's Career Center. And then you go to appointments and then you find the type of appointment. But if you want to do that right now, which again, you totally can, you can just book an appointment. They're super, I mean, nice at the GCC. And just something you need to remember is that to apply to a job, you need an approved resume. That means once you upload your resume, someone at the GCC needs to like go through it just to check it out once, which they do pretty quickly. Just so like if you're is like approaching the deadline, and you need to upload your resume, it might like sometimes obviously issues arise with that. So just try to upload your resume like a day or two before, and you'll obviously be good. But yeah.
Also, I think we should be having an employment and tax informational session during your guys' ISO. So a lot of those logistics and things to look out for while applying for jobs, being careful about legitimate listings versus like illegitimate listings, which happens a lot to international students. A lot of that will be explained there as well. And also, like, if there's any like sort of time constraint on like when you need to send out your resume or anything like that, like once you get assigned your ISOL, you can make them work with you on that. In fact, make them work with you on that. I will either like watch that or do that with you. And like 100% all of our ISOLs can help you with any of those questions or literally even like helping you design your resume, listing all the experience you have, all of that stuff, or direct you to other resources if we're ever limited in our knowledge. Um,
Yes, and to jump on that, if you guys have read our fourth issue of the newsletter, we actually have a tab there that says we have a specific instruction for students, international students who want to apply to jobs before their arrival. And again, please review our four newsletters, our newsletter, because there is a contact that I included there. So you can contact that person to to book an appointment and have your resume approved. And right on there in that appointment, you will approve your resume if it's good. And then after that, you can start applying to Handshake before you even arrive here at Wesleyan. So just to reiterate, that is in our fourth issue of the newsletter. You can just search that in your Gmail and the contact will be there. And also the whole instruction for how to schedule an appointment is also included in that newsletter. And then we have another question here. How exactly do people dress at West, like in general?
Anything you want. Anything you want. It can resemble the Met Gala, it can resemble like a Vogue runway, or it can like literally just be like a generic Northeastern college campus. A lot of people just tend to wear, I think, like jeans, sweaters, tank tops, from what I've noticed. Obviously, it changes seasonally, but like, guys, when I tell you there are no like real restrictions, obviously, and also no social restrictions or judgments. Like, there are some very fashionable people here on campus, and I think the campus is a better place for it. So you will likely probably be fine. But also, if you have like any more specific questions about that, feel free to head up again any of the ISOLs. Like we will be happy to answer that. We probably have pictures from our first days that we could share with you. So yeah.
Yeah, I would describe the style as very individual. Like people, I think, use fashion at Wesleyan as a way to like as a like self-expression. So as long as you're having fun, I don't think anybody like I feel like Wesleyan is a super accepting place like that where like nobody really cares in the best way possible. Um, and just it's like pretty freeing coming here and like really not being able to literally wear whatever I want. Um, I like there's like I I wouldn't really be scared about looking weird on the first day. Like college is the time like to experiment and you'll find your style definitely once you come to Wesleyan. There might be a few days where like, wow, these people are that's what I had to go. So it's like, wow, these people are really dressing really well. And then I like went on Depop and like had to buy docs. Well, not had to, but I did. I like went to Depop. But like there definitely there's a scene for everybody at Wesleyan. I think that's what I'll say.
Totally. Yeah, Wesleyan is very diverse, and that includes all aspects, including fashion. We have another question here. Did you bring your iPhone from your home country or did you buy a new one in the US?
I think most of us, or at least most of my friends who are international, ended up getting their phones, but then like switching out their SIM cards for like phone plans or different phone numbers. So I wouldn't say there's a real need to buy a new one. In fact, I would recommend against it, especially for the first few weeks, just so you can see what the tech scene here is like, see if you're facing any real difficulties, if you're able to get a phone plan or not, and then, you know, using your judgment to see if you need a new phone or not. But very case by cases, most of us just got our old phones and switched out SIM cards.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only time people would have to get a new phone is if back home, like manufacturing a phone has some restrictions or something. That's pretty rare though. But if your phone doesn't really have any of those restrictions, you're totally cool to bring your phone and you should. And then, like John B said, figure out if everything's working. And if not, you might have to get a new one, but I don't. You probably won't. But yeah.
I just want to say I had an experience with my friend. Her phone was manufactured in China and she wanted to switch to Mint Mobile because it's an eSIM and it's also cheap. And she brought the annual plan. And then she was so confused that she did not receive any of the plans. And we eventually found out that Chinese manufactured iOS or iPhone specifically don't support eSIMs. So I guess in that way, I'm not gonna recommend that you're gonna buy a new phone here, but it's something that you have to think of when you're trying to look for phone plans. Because if your phone is manufactured in China, then you might not be able to use the eSIM functions. You would need to buy a physical SIM. So those are just things that you need to take note of. Like, are there any manufacturing restrictions that you have in your current device that if you go here in the US will be um, an issue or a concern to you? So far, a lot of people just brought their old phones from their home country. We do have another question. Are there any physical SIM cards available here on campus?
I think Rai mentioned earlier that you have temporary eSIMs. Is that right? Um, so I think there's that, but also for physical SIM cards, the AT&T store it's like a 10-minute walk from campus. So if you'd like to get that changed there, like Main Street is so close to campus. It's like a 10 max 15-minute walk. I basically consider it campus. Um, so you should be able to get a physical SIM card or an eSIM pretty easily. Um, yeah, I think just ask around for what kind of SIM card you'd like, and that would probably gear you towards if you want to get one from from Wesleyan, from one of Wesleyan's programs, or if you want to get one from a store like AT&T or T-Mobile.
Something I did before I came to campus, or thing was, which saved me, was I transferred my like SIM from India to an eSIM. So just in case I would need a physical SIM, my slot would be open. If you can do that, I would recommend. It was a little bit annoying, but it worked out. That just that just allows me like in case I couldn't figure out Mint Mobile or something, I would have been able to get a SIM in my phone. So if you're able to do that, I would highly recommend.
Another question here. Would you recommend bringing a suit for job interviews, kind of suit or any kind of formal wear?
I think formal wear is bringing it like you definitely can bring it. Like Wesleyan is a pretty laid back. I mean, it's college is pretty laid back. So I think other than like maybe like if you're part of like maybe like the debate formal might have a or like at the end of the year in like spring semester, a lot of the clubs have formals where we try to dress a little bit less casual and more formal. But at Wesleyan, that can look like not like what you would traditionally like, not like a suit and tie necessarily, but I don't think you need one for on-campus job interviews. If you're talking about interviews for external like companies, that could be different. But definitely at Wesleyan, nobody's expecting you to wear formal wear for an interview. You can just wear your normal clothes. Um, there's nothing there's nothing that would be too that like distracts from the fact that you're in an interview, I would say. But yeah, if like so I would say like the reasons why people bring formal wear to Wesleyan is for like the formals that we have at the end of um the spring semester, but you honestly really don't even need traditionally like formal outfits for that. People just try to what people do is just like they wear like longer dresses or just try to wear more cool clothes instead of necessarily formal clothes. But if you need suits, I think Waist Knot had some last time. Just if you keep checking Waist Knot, they will pop up. And obviously it's free, so you can just take it. And if you need to be fitted towards for your body, waist knot on the opposite end of waist knot, there is So What, where they have a free tailoring service where you can give your clothes, tell them what you need to do, tell them what needs to be done to it, and then um and once they do it, they'll let you know, and then you can tailor your clothes to you. It's a super useful thing at Wesleyan. So that's a pretty easy and cheap way to get formal wear at Wesleyan. The issue is that you have to wait for something to pop up at Waste Not, but yeah, so definitely for like Wesleyan job interviews, like on campus, you don't need to wear formal wear. For most formals, even though they're called formals at Wesleyan, you don't really need traditional formal wear. If you're like interviewing for like an external like summer internship or something, I guess maybe if it's like in the corporate sphere, you might have to have a suit, but um I think I think especially with online interviews, you can get away with a little bit less formal stuff until I guess you have to go in person. But I don't think it's definitely not necessary at Wesleyan to have formal wear.
Yep. I am gonna say, well, I had to need a formal wear my first semester because I took a leadership class that took us to New York City in the UN. And really, if you're in the UN, you kind of like need a certain um attire for that. So I had to go for a formal wear. So I guess just to be safe, if it's not bulky and you have space in your luggage, then yes, definitely bring a formal wear. But again, as Nirvan mentioned, we also have the West Rift, which is in the basement of College of Environment. That's open the whole year. You can get your clothes like fitted to you as well. So definitely not um it's not the end of it all if you forgot to bring a formal wear here at Wesleyan.
I agree. I think, again, formals are the only places, like club or organizational formals or like dances at the end of the year are like probably where I've seen suits or more other formal wear worn a lot. And I would also say that for like internships or even like, working at other places beyond Wesleyan, like it can vary from place to place, but I think very few places will also require you to wear a suit, unless, of course, it's like a UN student delegation or something like what Rai said. It's a lot of business casual, polos, cardigans. Um, but I think it's really, really good to have like 1 to 2 crisp white button-up shirts. You'll be surprised with how much you can get away with just that, and how many like events or things that can work with. So just like keep an eye for things in your closet that can be dressed up or down and bring those, and you will likely be able to find something on campus or something you already have that you can work with, even in your worst case scenario.
Something I will mention also is that the Gordon Career Center has a career development grant, um, where a student can use can apply and then get up to $500 throughout their whole time at Wesleyan. And a lot of students, especially FGLI students, will use the career development grant for their summer internship, so their junior year summer internship, if they get one, or their when they leave Wesleyan for their job. And they'll use that to buy formal clothes. So if you need formal clothes specifically for an internship, your career, that's a really good place to go. Yeah, and it's a pretty easy application process, and they're pretty good with like actually giving the grants to people. But it is only up to $500. Like you can apply multiple times, but all of your applications can only you can once you hit 500, you can't get any more money. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nirvan and John V. That was a whole hour of um our first pre-arrival session. Wow. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to our ISO leaders. They have dropped their emails on the chat box, so please make sure to check that out. And you can also send questions to iso@wesleyan.edu, or you can also schedule an appointment for anything visa related to oasa@wesleyan.edu. Again, thank you so much for joining. Just a quick reminder, please read all of our emails that we send to you. Any pre-arrival emails that we send, may it be the newsletter or any important updates, because that's our first form of communication. We only have a month left before ISO, and we are so excited to welcome you all here. Again, my name is Rai. I'm your ISO intern, and these are your amazing ISO leaders. And thank you so much for joining our first pre-arrival sessions. See you soon.
See you soon,
We're
guys.
so excited to see you guys. See you guys.
Awesome. I'm just gonna stop the recording.